Almost there.
Okay.
And Chuck, I got your message. I think you're right about. I'll have to ask. A friend of mine has a podcast, and she has a whole system for like how she promotes it after they record it. I'll have to ask her if she could ever like give me some insight, and then I could share it with you because she does really well.
Sure.
She has
or we can have her on the show and she can share it with the world.
Oh my God, you're right. That's perfect. Even better. Actually, that's I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah. She does like natural food or healthy living or something like that. I mean, it's not real estate, but it still would be good info.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm really trying to keep it real estate though.
Okay, gotcha.
Could we get her license or something?
Oh, it doesn't matter, does it?
Maybe she'll be a buyer eventually or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that she's hoping to eventually.
Okay, so okay, so are we on? Should I get
We
started?
are on. We are live.
Sweet.
Let me just make sure
Right,
Facebook is live, YouTube is live. Yes. Good to go.
Okay, so I'll introduce Kirk. Kirk, welcome. Kirk Hawkins. Here's the intro on Kirk for whoever doesn't know. Serving buyers and sellers across Southern California. Before making a transition to real estate, you're an award-winning news anchor, reporter, correspondent for ABC News, NBC News, CBS, KCAL, and now KTLA. Welcome.
Thank you. Great. It's great to be here. I'm so honored with the squad.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. So we usually have like our typical questions about, the market and how you got started and, certain things. But I know we talked about possibly discussing certain things that you learned in the other industry and, what you were able to implement here that helped you and things like that, unless you want to start with.
I would actually love to hear the story, the transition story. Why even get into real estate when you're, on TV and news anchor and doing all these exciting things, or at least sounds exciting, and then why get into real estate?
Yeah, real estate is just as exciting. No, I interned in college. I got my first TV job. I went to UC Santa Barbara. I got my first TV job while I was in school. And I just moved from, in television, you have to move from like small city to large city to work your way up. And I grew up here. I went to college in Santa Barbara. I then worked at the station. I worked at a really small station in Santa Barbara. Then I went to a station in Orlando, Florida, Spokane, Washington, Charlotte, North Carolina, and then ended up back here. And first I worked at CBS, the Channel 2 and Channel 9. And then my boss from that station went over to KTLA. And so he basically like brought me with him. So like everything was great, but television is a changing world and it's being impacted by social media. The people that tune in the numbers aren't as high as they used to be. It's not the place where, if you get good ratings, they give you a Rolls Royce as a bonus like they once did at one point. And I really started kind of researching. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if any of you guys have read that about like cash flowing investments and how they can kind of pay for you and stuff. And then I started listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I started getting like really excited about real estate and investments. And so I needed to like find a way to raise capital. And so I got my real estate license 4 years ago and started doing it on the side. And it just kind of took off. And so I jumped into real estate full time. And I've been fortunate that my station offered me the opportunity to kind of just still fill in on a case by case basis. So like I'll fill in when any of the main people are off. So I'll do, like I did traffic earlier this week and I do weather. I'm actually doing weather for the early morning news tomorrow. And first of all, like traffic and weather are so much fun. And I have kind of the best of both worlds because I can still keep my foot in the door with that and I can do real estate. And I found it's good to like maintain the visibility, because now I also have a real estate podcast. It's kind of on hiatus right now with the station, but there's been a good synergy there. And then plus, like, I've had the fortune that sometimes I'll go to listing appointments and they'll recognize me from TV, and it's been helpful to kind of like, you know, it gives me an added sense of credibility, I guess. And
I think
so
we first started talking at.
basically, like, it is my main thing. Yeah, that property on Laurel Canyon.
That's right.
And you were kind of doing, and you were thinking of doing basically this, I think, and like creating some more content and good opportunities. And I think it's really cool because the name of the game when it comes to marketing now is building a brand online, whether it's, you know, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. And I kind of have, because of like my background, I have a little bit of a background in how to create content, and I'm, you know, a lot more comfortable in front of the camera. And I think all of that has helped me to kind of, and I still am not in a good rhythm with it yet, but like the idea is to kind of use that same skill to kind of create stuff that not only works on a marketing side, but also helps like educate and inform buyers and sellers too, you know, throughout the process. So yeah.
So when we first talked at that property, and you told me about your background, and that's when I think we started talking about you potentially starting to like piggyback off of their already existing you know, traffic online, whatever, and creating some sort of real estate thing. And my real estate thing, besides this, I also have my own like YouTube channel for my own real estate wholesaling and real estate related stuff. But I wanted to like combine that, and I think that once you get back to, you know, what you got, you know, what you started with getting like really providing insightful information for consumers in LA about real estate related stuff, I feel like that could be such the next thing with so many real estate related, you know, shows out there on Bravo and this and that. Like there's no real estate news. Like there should be real estate news, you know.
Yeah. And you're right, like Selling Sunset, everyone's been watching that the last few seasons. And then what's the one on VH1 of Love and Listings? And then there's $1 Million Listing on Bravo, of course. And I feel like they all kind of like are a glamorous look at the industry. In fact, like Selling Sunset, I felt like there were some really interesting nuggets from the Oppenheims kind of built into the drama and the narrative that they had going on. But I think that there's, you know, they're really, what I want to do is kind of take the skills of news that I have where I, you know, help and inform people just about what the big story is of the day, and kind of apply that to real estate and create a little bit more opportunity to kind of explain and demystify the process. I mean, the biggest thing that I've learned, you know, since I got my license is that home ownership is possible. And I think there's a lot of people that have this mental block, and they think that they don't make enough money, or that they don't, that they just can't do it. And there's so many, you know, Lior probably can like weigh in on that too, is there's so many opportunities for you to find a way into the market and get going. And I think the knowledge is power in this case, and informing people about what they can do and how they can make it happen too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like if you got someone like Lior involved, sorry to jump in, but if you got someone like Lior involved, not that it's Lior, but just a lender, it would feel more of like a solicitation thing. No offense, Lior, but I think that we can definitely, if you were to do something, or if somebody did take that approach, then you can definitely, you know, bring in your lender every once in a while, and hey, what are the rates? What are the conditions? What are the hurdles that people are jumping through? As opposed to, hey, this is a, you know, real estate news, but hey, we're going to stick, you know, lending down your throat. We're going to stick, you know, escrow down your throat, things like that. I think it would be more of like, hey, so-and-so, like, can we share the Craig Strong?
Yeah.
Like Craig Strong, who's someone we had on here a few weeks ago. Like he just closed on Patricia Heaton's $7.5 million house. Like she's a celebrity. He's a local guy. That's like kind of newsworthy. Wouldn't be too much, you know, but it would be just something to chat.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like so-and-so's escrow dropped because so-and-so didn't remove their contingencies. That's not newsworthy.
Yeah. But I think that's great. You're right. There's a newsy a way that you can approach it. In fact, not to like plug myself too much, but I TikTok, a friend of mine works with TikTok and connected me with them for a program that just wrapped up at the end of August, where we had to post, a new video every day that was like something informative and educational. And so I did a whole, I think it's like 45 or 50 videos that are like little information nuggets about how to navigate the real estate process. Like, what is a down payment? What is a contingency? What are inspections and that kind of stuff? And I think the more that I can do to kind of demystify the whole process and make it seem, I mean, for all of us, it's really standard, but there's so many people out there that it's not. But you're right. And so there's that, but then there's like fascinating stuff happening all around LA with like the different transactions that are happening and the celebrities that are buying property and, all of that stuff too.
I think also at the end of the day, mostly everybody's looking for competitive advantage. How can I stand out from the crowd, especially in a seller's market, which we've had up until now and still are having. The buyers don't really have that kind of an advantage. They're going in, they're submitting their offers, everybody's looking for the best price. But when you have a competitive advantage, now you're separating yourself from the pack. And that's in any industry, whether it's real estate, lending, no matter what you do, if you can give tips and strategies and tricks on how to have that competitive advantage. And that's one of the main things that we always focus on with our clients, because if we don't do that, then we're just another realtor, we're just another lender, we're just another whatever it is that we're offering as a service. But when we can give them that extra competitive advantage and give them tricks on how to separate themselves and be at the top of the stack, that's really what's going to help. And I'm curious, with you, what have you been able to take away from your past and kind of present life still with the TV and applied into real estate that maybe gave you a little bit of a competitive advantage?
That's a good question. I think there's a lot of people in television that don't stick with television for their entire career. They'll do that for like the first half of their life, and then they'll kind of pivot to something else. Like there's a lot of former on-air television people that end up working in public relations as like spokespeople or some sort of communications aspect. And I tell everyone that I think as journalists or as news people, we really are given a lot of really good tools that apply to real estate. And it's not only, and a lot of it has to do with just what the daily life of a journalist is and compared to like what the daily life of a realtor is. And there's a hustle in both places. And I think as a journalist, you're always under this like deadline pressure. And as a realtor, you're under pressure, but sometimes you can let things slip through the cracks if you're not on the ball. And I think having that edge as a journalist kind of helps you push that forward too. And then I also think, I was, especially when I had done some work for NBC News and ABC News, you're essentially speaking in front of millions of people at any given time. And you have to have kind of like a little bit of confidence to be able to do that. And so even though I was this fresh agent with my license, days later, I felt a little extra comfortable and confident just going into a random person's home or helping a random buyer, convincing them to basically work with me. And I think that also helped, because a lot of times as a reporter, you're knocking on the door of someone's house and they may have had a family member that just died in a car crash or something horrific, and you have to kind of go and convince them to do an interview in like their darkest hour. And if you can feel comfortable as you can be doing that, because it's obviously you have to have a dose of humanity or otherwise it's not going to work. But if I can feel comfortable with that, that's worked in real estate too. And so I think there's just some of the basic nuts and bolts of what it takes to be a good agent. I think I already kind of had in my DNA. Plus, we work as journalists, we work like super long hours. And as you guys know, real estate, if you're not careful, can be like a 24/7 thing. And frankly, like that's what you want, because that means the business is like really coming in. But it kind of conditioned me. Like tomorrow when I do the weather, the call time is 3 a.m. And you know, there were some times where I would have early call times, but then I would work all day long. And I think if you're coming into real estate from like a nice 9-to-5 comfortable job, then you might have some hurdles to go through. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of like the lifestyle and the nuts and bolts of what it takes to be successful kind of translate over. Plus you have to be a quick study. I mean, even I think, Chuck, when I met you at that house, you know, we had to know the comps. And I remember in that case in particular, I had kind of like studied the comps like super fast before I was there. And, you know, I think because of real estate where I like study up a story really quickly and then have to talk about it on camera for a little while, I kind of apply that same skill now too. So although like, I don't know if that totally answers your question, but there's a lot of like the skill sets I think are totally applicable.
And then, you know, in terms of maybe a little bit more on the actual strategies on building a network or working with customers, and maybe even take us to like your first deal. Do you even remember your first deal, and how did you get your first deal coming in as a fresh agent?
Yeah. Well, you know, like your first deal it can take the better part of a year if you're not careful. And I think mine took at least like 8 or 9 months. And it ended up being a buyer that everyone on the team, you know, was too busy with their listings and they just kind of handed off to me. But it was amazing because that kind of snowballed into, you know, a referral that led to another referral. And then before long, like I've been fortunate that that's like the bulk of my business. But, you know, like everyone has something that they can use as their thing and as their like signature. And you know, whether you're like the coach on a basketball team for your kids, or you know, you go to a church or synagogue, or you know, you're like a diehard Rams fan and you go to the same bar every Sunday, like or you go to like a country club. Like, you know, Craig Strong is amazing because I think he's really active in the Toluca Lake. I think there's a neighborhood council that he might even be a member of. And then I think he golfs over at I forget what that
Lakeside.
Lakeside, yeah. And so he's amazing in that he's like right there in the community. And I think like that's what every like aspiring journalist should do, is you kind of look around and oh, my internet connection is unstable. Sorry if I broke up.
It's okay, we're getting you back.
But I think like, well, I didn't realize it first, but I thought buyers and sellers would be seen on TV, and then, you know, I'd be back at their house the next day doing showings and whatnot. But I think because we're in LA and everyone gets excited about, you know, being on, you know, interacting with someone in some capacity on television, that they ended up trusting me and feeling more comfortable with me because of that, for whatever reason. And so that's ended up becoming like a big part of my niche. And I've had viewers that have reached out, you know, like DM'd me on Instagram that I've helped. I've had, you know, coworkers. And then just because, like social media, I've, you know, sales and upcoming listings, and I need to get better at doing it more regularly, but I'm amazed at how friends and family will see that, and like friends that will see stuff, and then they'll kind of reach out to see if I could help them. And so I've just been amazed at how like that's become a little bit of my like posting about the TV, even if they'll like me questions about real estate, and then I'll take the clip and I'll sometimes share it online. And it's amazing how, you know, that will help generate some new business and additional referrals too. Like I haven't I haven't done the like cold calling or door knocking thing as much.
Well,
I've
that's a
been really
blessing.
fortunate that a lot of
I was hoping you'd have, I know it's kind of far-fetched, but I was hoping you might have like a, situation where you're like, breaking news, this house is on fire, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, cut, we're done. And then you go knock on the door and get the listing.
I know. I kind of wish. I've never had anything like that. Everyone always jokes with me where it's like, in between like stories, I could go door knocking. I haven't actually done that just yet. Usually, like they'll see me talking, and in one case in particular, they saw me on the air kind of just talking about real estate and then DM'd me on Instagram. And then I eventually met with them and then got the listing. And so
Good.
So it hasn't happened a lot, but it's been like pretty cool in that respect.
So let me ask you, with COVID obviously kind of affecting everybody's life, and especially in real estate, it was a big adjustment initially. Have you changed anything in your business practice, whether it's how you interact with clients, any of your listings, or just how you find business? Anything changed due to COVID?
What's really interesting is I started working with a developer like literally the Wednesday before, and I started doing acquisitions for them. And I was really fortunate that I ended up like, I kept doing, I started doing more showings where I would go and check out properties for them on the acquisition side. And then on the sales side, they started getting a lot more, a lot of their properties were coming online. And then I had already my existing listings and business that just kind of was still kind of humming along. And so I've never been as busy as I've been during this whole period. I've noticed, there's definitely a level of people that are more sensitive, and they're doing the gloves, and we obviously have to do the masks and the gloves and the hand sanitizer and use the booties and all of the extra precautions that we have to. But I've just kind of like bulldozed right through all of those things, and nothing has really changed too much. I've just been more sensitive to the fact that there are people, we're being in LA, I think we're with people that are probably more sensitive than they would be in other parts of the country. And so I think I've just been a little bit more sensitive to that, but like people still wanted to see showings.
You've got a really weak signal.
To like put their houses on the, and obviously inventory is low, demand is high, rates are so favorable that it's. Oh shoot, really? It says my internet connection is stable. Let me see if I do. Hold on one second, let me try this.
When it happens to me, I try to increase the bandwidth. I go off Wi-Fi on my phone, turn off the Netflix, turn off the YouTube, tell the kids to get off their iPads.
I think try this. Let me see if this will do it. Okay, so I switched on. I don't know if this is better, but I switched to the 5G network that I have.
So far, so good.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to kick out of a couple of the. Okay, there we go. Maybe that's better.
He's like, let me close off Facebook, Instagram.
I know, seriously.
So Kirk, let me ask you, do you have a mentor? Do you believe in mentors, coaches, anything like that?
Yeah, I actually wish that I had a mentor. I've been at I think I'm on my third brokerage now, And at each step along the way, I had really awesome mentors that helped me. But every time I moved to a different brokerage, it was almost like I was kind of, I had kind of plateaued, and it was a matter of growing and moving forward. And I kind of wish that I had, one of the developers that I work with now is very much like a mentor, and I'm like super fortunate. I found this property off market, and I felt like they would be perfect for it because I had done a deal with them a year ago. And I did, I ended up representing the listing, and then I represented them on the buy side. And they, over the course of the transaction, they offered me this opportunity to work with them. And it's like, it came out of nowhere. It fell from the sky, and it's been one of the greatest things ever, because I probably learned a lot of what you guys do, just about identifying acquisitions, looking at, the sale costs and all of that sort of thing. And but I've never had anyone kind of like from day one to now as a mentor. But I definitely think mentors are huge. And I try to, anytime people are thinking about becoming agents, I like to sit down and give them as much time as I can to make the right decision about next steps and stuff. But yeah.
So you mentioned TikTok a couple times. I'm guessing you use that as one of the social platforms to kind of get a brand out there. But can you give any tips, like for somebody that's just getting started, and whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, just the most basic, easiest tip that somebody can go implement tomorrow and start building up some kind of a rep?
Totally. I think, with Instagram, the biggest thing is the algorithm favors if you have like a photo of yourself. So if you put a photo of a property, you're not going to get as much engagement if you post yourself doing something. And so that would be the biggest thing. TikTok is really interesting because the target demo is definitely like you kids basically. But I think like more and more there's adults that are kind of embracing and getting into it. And it seems like I haven't gotten any clients off of it yet, and I'm still kind of learning the whole thing, but it's a really fun way to kind of, just relax a little bit and focus on, having a good time. But then with real estate, we have the advantage of, we can inform and enlighten, but we can also, kind of like pull that all together and have a little fun with it. But it's funny because like, for whatever reason, all of my stuff was showing up in one of the Discover pages. And so all these like teenager, like 12, 13, 14-year-olds are commenting like, why am I seeing realtor TikTok? I don't understand. And so I think like, it might be a little bit early, but I definitely think what's cool about TikTok too, is I think it's still, and who knows, there's a lot of chatter back and forth between the administration and whether or not, they're going to shut it down and Microsoft will purchase it. But I think it's still in its early days. And I think, for a marketing tool, it could be a really good experience. And
there's a lot of amazing editing tools in TikTok that you can use. That's just like, boom, like you can use it, green screen effects, different audio, whatever. There's a lot of stuff you can use it. If you wanted to, if anybody wanted to take 10, 15 minutes, go on YouTube tutorial and just really understand like all the hacks, you can use that. You can definitely.
And it's amazing because there's a lot of these kids are so creative with the stuff that they're doing and like the dances that they know. And if you can kind of like figure out all of those good things and like pull some video together, I think it could be like a really good way to, market yourself and kind of lock in this new generation.
Yeah, if nothing else, at least get a good laugh out of people.
Yeah, no, seriously.
No, listen, I've been, I've been instructed by my daughter, choreograph different moves and stuff. I think I'm pretty good, but whatever.
I would probably bet that. Give it a shot.
It's definitely it's a lot of fun, but you definitely could use it for business. And I think there's a lot of adults on there too, like more and more and more.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like it's one of those things, like if you're an early adopter and kind of get in and build an audience, it could end up being like, and I don't know if they've already reached their breaking point in a way of where I don't think it's like as everyone has adopted it, like they have Facebook and maybe Instagram. And so there's still an opportunity to like get in closer to the ground floor and like build an audience with too. But no, it's fun, and I can see the potential of it for being a good marketing tool as well.
I have a question for you back to like KTLA and NBC. I remember when we first talked, it was how can I help you or whatever create content to be able to piggyback some of their traffic that they already have, all these people already watching them, people going to their site, whatever. How do you see yourself potentially maneuvering what's out there, stuff that's insightful, stuff that's interesting for people, like the news, the real estate news of the day kind of moment? Do you see yourself, do you think someone like KTLA or someone would allow you that space, that little platform to do that?
Yeah. And, so I have a real estate podcast with them that's kind of on the KTLA podcast network. And I'm trying to build it out so that it's exactly what you're saying it is, like more of a real estate news segment. And that's why I kind of have it on hold as I'm working to retool it. Because before it was only audio. And I have a photographer that we're pulling everything together to be able to make it a video podcast, and then also video podcast, video streaming, and then the video content that I could then at some point maybe even bring on air sometimes. And so yeah, I'm totally trying to find a way to kind of blend all of that together.
So when we're done with this, I want to talk to you about that, because I mean, we've had, Maya Vander from Selling Sunset, we've had her on here. We've had all types of interesting people that I think could be great, guests for you. I've got other people, especially using the brand, like whatever, if it's KTLA or whatever, it's a lot easier to get these guests that want that exposure, that are willing to talk about the stuff that's exclusive. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, no, I would love to. I think that'd be amazing. What's really interesting is those kinds of guests I've had on the podcast, like HGTV hosts and other people that are on those various real estate related shows, and they do really well. But what's also really amazing is I'll have, what I would think would be the most boring economist or some sort of market expert come on to talk about where the market is, and those are the episodes that do really, really well. I think people are really hungry for information, and I did a few of those during the early days of the pandemic, and a lot of those did really well too, where they were just a little bit more dry, but it was where's the market, what should I do, that kind of thing did really well too. So yeah. And it shows the spectrum of what real estate news could look like in a television type segment. And so yeah, no, I'm totally on board.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leo, you want to do the win of the day? I think we've been limiting the people that are actually on with us, just because it gets, people forget to put themselves on mute. We have to mute everybody. It kind of gets a little bit so we're kind of limiting that. So if there's any questions through YouTube or whatever, I'm sure you'd get notified. But we can do the win of the day too, just so we can kind of stay on that 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do the win of the week, or if anybody has a question, we can definitely allow the few that we have on the Zoom to ask any questions. But Chuck, I know you're always excited about win of the week, so why don't you kick us off?
My win of the week. Yesterday, I got a call. I was actually just telling Kirk this. I'm going to use this as my win of the day, just because it's an awesome story. Yeah. I got a call yesterday at 11 a.m. from someone I work with, someone who's a lender, who's like, "Hey, I've got these gajillionaires here, shopping for a helicopter." and they saved some money on the helicopter. They were planning on spending like $6 or $7 million. They ended up only spending 4, and they have this money and they want to buy something. Do you have anything? I was like, yes, meet me at Koreatown. Boom, boom, boom. Literally 30 minutes later, we're walking a lot with these helicopter buyers, and they walked a lot. They're like, yeah, we'll take it. And it was just the easiest thing ever. It was unbelievable.
Congratulations.
So we're working on the paperwork right now.
That's the coolest story ever.
Not only that, on the same day, he also had a backup buyer for it.
That's right.
No way.
I have a
Yeah.
property for your backup buyer in Koreatown already entitled.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Nice. Deals happening here too.
Yeah, that's my win of the week. I just offered Chuck a deal.
She has an off-market win of the day that she's about to list, right?
No, this is a different one. I have an off-market Beverly Hills condo fixer. If anyone's interested in that.
Yeah, me.
Nice.
I know, but I'm just putting it out there
Oh.
too, just to get backups.
I want to buy everything.
No, seriously. Wait, and explain a little bit more. You guys, are you wholesaling all of this stuff, or what's the process?
Well, who wants to know?
I'm just saying, I'm turning into like the TV host here, interviewing you.
So
He's
sometimes
going
we buy
into
stuff.
podcast mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Reversed. Sometimes we buy stuff. Sometimes we wholesale it. Sometimes we project manage it. Sometimes we just connect the dots. Sometimes we'll broker it. So, we have different hats that we'll put on. And honestly, at the end of the day, whatever makes the deal, whatever gets us to closing,
Mhm.
we've stepped aside. If a buyer, if someone in our network said, you know what, I want the deal, but I don't want us to do this joint venture thing. I want to take it on my own. No problem. Gracefully bow out, let them take the deal. And that way everyone's happy, because at the end of the day, we want escrow closed. As many of them as
Absolutely.
possible.
Always be closing.
Yeah.
So you'll take like everything, like you may have properties for an investor, you may have property, you may want to see what off markets they have or something like that.
Yeah. We always wanna, trade off market stuff, because there might be 1031 exchange buyers that they might need a little bit more hand holding, or they might need to have more accommodations for time. Let them identify a property. It's for us, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, do you identify the property first, or do you get into escrow and sell yours?
Mhm.
So we have to kind of be there for them to help them find something. And so there's different roles we play, different roles.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Like a resource for agents that might have a tricky situation.
Absolutely. We have agents reaching out to us that are huge retail agents that have a fixer or something off market, like a development, and they'll bring it to us because we have so many builders that we work with. And so we just can expose it to, so many people at once, rather than them calling, each builder.
Sure, sure.
Especially if you're dealing with a hoarder, if you're dealing with a divorce sale, where you've got a spiteful ex, where you're dealing with, you never know. We're the fixers. We're the ones that'll come and get that deal done. But enough about us, more about you.
No, this is good. Good info.
Any other wins of the week for anyone?
I feel like my win of the week is being able to chat with all of you. Aw, shucks.
Okay, Lior, anything else? Can we what happened to you? We lost your feed, dude.
Oh, really? I see him.
We just can't hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah.
All right. So no, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Kirk, for taking the time. We know you're busy. You get up, it sounds like at 3 a.m. to do weather and traffic, and you're a realtor by day. And so it doesn't go unnoticed that you take the time to actually come and share with us your story and give us some insights. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining on Zoom, on Facebook, and on YouTube, whoever's watching. We'll be here again next week, same place, same time. and looking forward to just continuing to grow this network.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. Thanks again
Sounds
for
good
joining
to
us.
me.
We'll talk soon. Thank you guys, and we'll
All right,
talk
thanks, guys.
offline. Peace.
Awesome.
Bye.